Welcome to the NBAV podcast.
Let's talk everyone's favorite player, Steph Curry. What I like to constantly refer to as the greatest show on television, Steph Curry still holds up his end of the bargain. When you watch the Warriors play and you see Curry hit the shots that he hits, including the incredible buzzer beater, or rather game winner, because there was still 0.7 left on the clock after he connected with the 39-foot three-pointer off of a pass that was nearly stolen. It managed to help him a bit. It helped him shake the defender because the defender was behind him going for the ball. And Curry able to get off the still somewhat contested 39-foot three-pointer, which he hits to absolutely the surprise of nobody. But when you see the fans going berserk and you see full-grown adults just jumping up and down, waving their arms in the air like they can't believe it, that is sports in a nutshell. It's the unbridled joy of just being able to let go and let loose and just be in amazement and awe of what these players are doing. That is sports. Forget about everything that's going on and just sit back and enjoy a game of basketball. And you have the Warriors. They didn't make any trades. They were pretty upfront about that. They weren't going to be active on the trade deadline, but they did make a trade, in a sense. They traded for Gary Payton. Yeah, I know they didn't really make a trade, but Gary Payton hadn't played so much this year that when he comes back in this game, it feels like a trade. It feels like we didn't have this guy on the team, and suddenly he's back. That's kind of what happened last season, where Gary Payton wasn't on the team, and then the Warriors traded for him and brought him back. Here, he was just injured, and yeah, he's a pretty injury-prone player in general, but when he's on the court, he's like a sprinkler. You never know where he's going to show up. It might be off of a surprise alley-oop. He'll make a back cut and get a dunk. He'll get a putback dunk. He'll get a rebound. He will make a good play on the defensive end, end up running on the break in transition. You never know where Gary Payton's going to end up on the court, and he's just a great sprinkler where you don't need to run anything for him. He does everything that the Warriors need a player to do. You don't need another Steph Curry. You need players like Gary Payton. So really welcome sight for the Warriors to get him back. And between him and Curry and Draymond playing as well as he did, Draymond Green has surpassed Klay Thompson at this point in terms of what he's giving the team. Draymond is still Draymond. Draymond has his passing. He still has his defense. And Klay has turned into a guy who you hope hits his threes, and he's playing less minutes now. I believe he played 20 minutes in the game, and Draymond far surpassed that. So the Warriors getting a little something together, and they had a little bit more to them last night, in last night's game where when Kevin Durant's on the opposing court, and this was obvious, when he's on the opposing team, the Warriors have a little bit more FU to them. They wanted this game against Kevin Durant. Curry even showing a little bit of signs of really wanting to get at him. They rely on Thompson less, and they're also not relying on Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is just doing his thing. He's playing his defense, and they're not relying on him to score. And that's good because that makes them dangerous. When you don't need to rely on Wiggins whatsoever. When it's just, okay, we get what we get with him, that's when he surprises. And you have Kuminga, who's playing really well right now. And what's so surprising with him is just how high of a level above all the rest of the players on the court he is in terms of athleticism. This is an NBA where you watch athletes do incredible things, and they're all in such amazing shape. And somehow Kuminga is a step above even all of these guys. Compared to other NBA players, he's athletically a level above. And as he starts to build the rapport with Draymond and the starters on Golden State, it's only going to go up from here. Kerr has admitted his mistake. Well, maybe not publicly, but he's clearly showing that he's playing Kuminga real minutes now, and that Kuminga's a real part of this Warriors team. So he's admitted with his actions. Actions speak louder than words, and now Kuminga suddenly is getting all the playing time that he was lacking previously. So you saw last night, Kuminga got one of those patented Draymond Green lobs off the back cut, where Draymond gets the ball in the middle and then sort of underhand flings it up to the baseline cutting Kuminga. He got one of those dunks. Previously, it was Iguodala, sometimes Peyton, and many players historically for Golden State have had those type of plays, and now we're seeing Kuminga start to build that rapport, and that's going to continue to go up and up and up and up. And we'll see eventually when they get Chris Paul back, it'll feel like another trade deadline move because he hasn't been a part of the team. He hasn't played in so long. He played in so few games for them this season, but now we're looking at the Warriors. They are in the play-in. They're in the 10 seed. Steph Curry, still the best show in basketball. They've won 4 games in a row. And now they have their sights set on the 9 seed. They have their sights set on the Los Angeles Lakers, who are only 1 game ahead of them. So that's what's in store for the Warriors. They're on the right track. We also saw in yesterday's NBA action, and then we also had NBA action on Friday. So we had 6 games on Friday, and then we had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 games on Saturday. If we go all the way back to Friday, we have the Hawks getting a win over the 76ers, which makes a ton of sense. You know, the 76ers playing without Joel Embiid. The Hawks didn't make any trades, and now they're able to move past the trade deadline. Forget about all the DeJounte Murray nonsense and just play basketball, and they're a better team than their record shows. So you have the Hawks getting a win. The Raptors, exactly as we called it, they played better defense and they were able to beat the Rockets. The Celtics beat the Wizards in a game that was surprisingly close. The Bucks crushed the Charlotte Hornets in a game before the Hornets actually got their team back. Pat Beverly played in this game for Milwaukee, so Milwaukee with Beverly now looking to get going in the right direction. You had the Kings getting a surprising, massive 29-point victory over the Nuggets. So Nuggets kind of falling asleep at the wheel there. Not sure what that's about, but it's okay. They earned the right. They have a championship, and they're still one of the best teams in the West. They earned the right to have a snoozer every now and then. The Lakers got a much-needed victory over the Pelicans, who were previously red hot. And then that takes us to the NBA action that happened last night. And this is something we really, really, really need to talk about. Yeah, Dallas. Dallas made a couple of trades. They brought in Daniel Gafford. They brought in P.J. Washington. And you had some people saying, why are they making these trades? Why are they giving up so much for Daniel Gafford? And I don't know exactly what they gave up, but I don't remember it being that much. If I can't name exactly what they gave up, if it's in terms of what they gave up a first, did they give up a late first? Did they give up second rounders? If we don't know immediately what they gave up, they didn't give up too much. Getting Daniel Gafford, getting P.J. Washington for this Dallas team is not just a good move. And I heard Bill Simmons being lukewarm on this, saying, well, why did they give up so much for Gafford? I think he's totally mistaken. Getting Gafford and P.J. Washington is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. So huge. And let's look at the roster here that they have right now. Okay, we're going to pull up the Mavericks payroll. All right, hopefully it's updated with everyone who's really on this team right now. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay, obviously at the top you have Luka Doncic. You have Kyrie Irving, right? They're 2 big dogs. You have Tim Hardaway Jr. at a very, very reasonable contract for this season and next, between 17 to 18 million this year and about 16 million next year. For what Hardaway provides them, that's a steal. Now you have P.J. Washington. Now you have Daniel Gafford. You have Maxi Kleba, who gets to play a much, much smaller role right now. They're a lot less reliant on him. They have Derek Lively, who's just a revelation, and they have him for the next several seasons at between $4 and $8 million per season. They have Josh Green, who's looking pretty good for them. Dwight Powell now with the acquisitions of Washington and Gafford. Dwight Powell, a guy who previously was relied upon, he gets to play on the back burner. He's on the court now in garbage time. You have Dante Exum at $3 million for the next 2 seasons. And, if he ever gets back on the court, just look out. The defense that he can come in and provide for when Luka or Kyrie go out of the game. And then you also have Derek Jones Jr., the high flyer, and you have Jaden Hardy getting paid about $2 million for the next 2 seasons. This is just sensational. This is an amazing, amazing roster. Luka, Kyrie, Hardaway Jr., PJ Washington, Gafford, Kleba, Derek Lively, Josh Green, Dwight Powell, Dante Exum, Derek Jones Jr., Jaden Hardy. That's 12 strong. A 12-strong roster. They have players and players and players with insurance. And we haven't even got to the game that they played last night against Oklahoma City. They beat Oklahoma City 146 to 111. They beat them by 35 points. Oklahoma City doesn't lose by 35 to anybody. This is a monumental victory for Dallas. They make the trades, and immediately the game starts. And bear in mind, the Mavericks don't have Derek Lively in this ballgame. So they don't have Derek Lively. And without him, the game starts, and immediately Luka gets a couple of lobs to Daniel Gafford. And it looks like they've just been playing together for their entire career. They also found opportunities later in the game to PJ Washington, and Luka was just in his bag. He was doing everything he needed to do. Kyrie was able to do everything he needed to do. And with Dallas, there you have a team that's always able to get off a tough shot that their stars can make, right? Luka can make a tough shot anytime, and so can Kyrie. But you add these 2 upgrades, Gafford and PJ Washington, and now you're going to get a lot more easy dunks and layups. So previously, where you're relying on Kyrie and Luka to just do magical things, now you're not relying on that anymore. Suddenly, it's a team. You don't need Hardaway to catch fire every single game in order for you to win now. Hardaway barely got any shots last night because he was playing behind Luka, Kyrie, and you have all these other options. You have going to the hoop. You have the high flyer Derek Jones. You have PJ Washington now. You have Daniel Gafford, and Lively wasn't even in the game. You think that just getting 2 improvements isn't that impactful, but when you upgrade 2 positions with these big athletic players, it makes everyone else look better. It makes Jaden Hardy look better. It makes Green look better. It makes Derek Jones look better. These moves that Dallas made should not be slept on. And when you have Luka, we've discussed this before, it doesn't matter what seed they are. The way Luka makes it look like he's played with these guys his whole career in just the first few minutes is scary. Dwight Powell, he's a garbage time player for this team now. He comes into the game with his goggles when the game is already done. You don't need Hardaway to shoot 100 times a game. Kyrie can often play with the second unit. This is a really, really, really deep team, and they just blew Oklahoma City out of their building, 146-111. The Oklahoma City doesn't do that. They've been so consistent. They're not a team that gets blown out, and now they just got laughed off the floor by Luka and this new cast of characters. This is massive. People should not be sleeping on Dallas. Dallas has a chance to win the NBA title this year. They really do. And then we have some other games. We have the Pistons keeping it close against the Clippers. It's a little bizarre to see what happened with Detroit. I was talking with a couple of my buddies who are Detroit fans, and they said, hey, look, we trimmed the fat. We trimmed the fat, and now we're looking towards a brighter future. They didn't just trim the fat. Detroit cut off, they cut off, the fat, and they cut off half the chicken with it. They got rid of 7 guys off the team. And it's pretty much all that they're doing right now is they're just having Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, pretty much do everything. Last night, Fontecchio chipped in with another 20 points in the acquisition from Utah. Troy Brown Jr. was there. I mean, you got 10 points from Asar Thompson. But that's pretty much it. It's really just the Cunningham and Ivy show, the dynamic duo right there, each doing what they can in their own time. So it's a little bizarre to think that Detroit could go from being that bad to playing a close game with the Pistons. That this would have been their 3rd victory in a row, and they only have 8 victories on the whole season. In their last 10 games, they're 4-6. So they have 8 victories on the entire season, right? They're 8-44, and half of those wins came in their last 10 games. So things are definitely trending in the right direction for them. It shows you, what you can do when you just know what your game plan is. And now the game plan is we're running through Ivy and we're running through Cade Cunningham. They know what they're doing, and hey, they're able to surprisingly play with teams who are better than them. Nonetheless, the Clippers get the victory. Clippers staying all the way on top of the all the way on top of the Western Conference. They're a half a game back of Minnesota. They are tied with the Nuggets for the 2 seed. And the Clippers continuing to do what they do. You have the Nets beating the Spurs by 20 points. You have the 76ers getting a much-needed victory. They need every win they can get at this point without Embiid. They beat the Washington Wizards 119-113. And then you have a game that I want to talk about a little bit. And that is the Memphis Grizzlies going to Charlotte to play the Hornets in the first game after the trade deadline where the players are actually playing. The newly acquired players are there. And what's interesting about this game is you have Memphis, right? Memphis, it's a lost year. They've lost Ja. They've lost, Desmond Bane for the time being. They don't have Brandon Clark. So it's a lost year. Memphis isn't going anywhere. And it's basically now you have the Jaren Jackson Jr. show. But Memphis brings it. All their players are playing hard. Jaren Jackson is showing that he's more than just, a complimentary piece. He's really a guy who could help the face of the franchise. So you have Memphis coming into Charlotte, and Memphis is going to play hard. And Charlotte's a really bad team. They just got rid of a couple of guys, including P.J. Washington, including the player made from glass in Gordon Hayward. And they go out there, and now you have the newly acquired Visilije Micic. And you have the newly acquired Trey Mann. And the newly acquired Steph Curry and also Davis Bertans. And all of them got to play in this game. They all got to play double-digit minutes. But what's great is, they also have Grant Williams as well, who I forgot to mention, who played 32 minutes and scored 15 points. But what's amazing about watching Micic is you had this guy who's this MVP from the EuroLeague, had a dynasty over there, a bunch of championships. And all that we want with him coming to the NBA is we just want to see him play. We want to see the players play. It's no fun for him to come to the NBA and sit on the bench of Oklahoma City and for him not to get playing time. We want to see the passing that we've talked about with this guy. We want to see his ability in the pick and roll that we've heard about. And yeah, we can go watch EuroLeague highlights, but that doesn't really do it. We want to see what they can do in the NBA. Because, yeah, you're going against a different caliber of athlete, a different caliber of big man, where Micic could maybe go in the pick and roll and get by certain big men over in Europe. Can he do the same thing in the NBA? Let's see what he can do with a cast of real NBA talent assisting him. That's all we ever wanted, was just to see him get a chance. And now we actually got to see him play 26 minutes last night. And they won the game. Miles Bridges helped with scoring 25 points. Brandon Miller put up 18. But it was so much fun, and I'm so looking forward to seeing Micic play on this Hornets team. This is a Charlotte team that forever hasn't known how to develop players, and they haven't known how to prioritize players. I mean, they drafted James Bouknight, and then they never played the guy. They never gave him a chance to play. It doesn't make any sense, and now they waived him. He's off the team. I don't know what happened there, and you become worried if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan. Are they to be trusted with the players who they draft, or is it just you're going to draft guys and then put them deep onto the bench, not give them minutes, and not never develop these guys? And they give LaMelo Ball a ton of run, but at the expense of who? Like, are there players on their team who could have been great, who now will never even make it in the league? Like James Bouknight? I mean, if you look at the amount of time he got to play, it was like in his first few games that he was on the team, it was like didn't play, played a minute, played in garbage time a couple of minutes. Oh, he got to play one game, he actually had a good game. And then didn't play. You just have to wonder if players being sent to Charlotte are just being sent to Siberia. They're being sent there to die. For PJ Washington, I think that you need to send him a shirt that says, "I survived the Charlotte Hornets." That's what you have to feel like. You have to be happy for a guy to get out of jail and go and play real basketball. So we just hope that, Steve Clifford, one of the worst coaches in the NBA, he's been one of the worst coaches forever. I don't know what happened, how he was off the team and then he ended up back there. Just a really horrendous coach. I could give you examples of horrible coaching decisions he made going back to when Kemba Walker was on that team, when that team was actually in the playoffs, when Jeremy Lin was on that team. I mean, just going back what feels like an eternity ago. And somehow Steve Clifford is still there doing who knows what. But we hope that we're going to get to see Micic play and get to see Trey Mann play and get to see what these guys can do on the NBA court. And then from the Memphis side, yeah, the Grizzlies lose the game, but it's obvious. Jaren Jackson Jr. is much more than just, a center to complement Ja and to complement Desmond Bane. He's a real NBA talent. I mean, their announcer, everyone loves the Charlotte announcer, and I was loving that guy before everybody else knew about him. I mean, I was telling all my friends, you got to watch this Charlotte announcer. He's the best. And, it's more than just him saying hum diddly dee and his funny lines. He really picks up on things in the game. And the way he was highlighting how Jaren Jackson was shooting with his right hand from three and then shooting with the left hand inside was just hilarious and so much fun to watch the way that guy calls the game. And Jaren Jackson Jr., a real incredible talent. And then you have the other Jackson, Gigi Jackson. And it's become apparent at this point. Gigi Jackson put up another 16 points in only 26 minutes. He's the youngest player in the NBA, and he's a real one. It's not a fluke at this point. Gigi Jackson is a real player. So you have Jaren Jackson and Gigi Jackson. You have the Jackson brothers. Yeah, they're not actually brothers. You have Jaren Jackson Jr., and then you have Gigi Jackson II. So I'm a little unclear. What's the difference between when you have a guy and he's called Junior or a guy called the second? Like, what's the difference there between being junior and, I just don't understand it. But maybe someone can explain the difference to me sometime. But anyway, the Grizzlies basically have the tank commander. They have Jacob Gilyard out there running point. He's this really small point guard. I don't think he's actually there to win games. I think he's more there to lose games. But, that's just my opinion. Jacob Gilyard playing 21 minutes, scoring 6 points, really tiny point guard. So he's going to be the tank commander the rest of the way. And then you have another point which about the Grizzlies that I don't really understand, which is within the last month they waived Kenny Lofton Jr. And this was a guy who he looked like Zach Randolph in the limited action that he had. He was actually the G League Rookie of the Year last season, and he went from having a two-way contract to getting a full NBA contract, a full guaranteed deal with Memphis Grizzlies. Now, for some reason, he didn't really get to play very much. He got to play in really one game where he got to play real minutes in his NBA career, and he dropped 40 points and had like 14 rebounds. So it doesn't really make any sense to me what happened. They waived him, but meanwhile, they're playing other guys like Santi Aldama, John Conchar. They have Luke Kennard, and they have Derrick Rose on this team. Trey Jameson. I mean, none of these guys have the upside that Kenny Lofton Jr. had. Kenny Lofton Jr., if he hits his ceiling, he could be Zach Randolph one day. Santi Aldama is like vanilla. He goes out there and he's a slow tempo player. He can occasionally hit a three. He's tall and thin. He's fine. He can play on a team in the NBA, but he doesn't have nearly the ceiling that Kenny Lofton Jr. did. How do you go from signing a guy to a two-way deal, him winning G League Rookie of the Year, signing him to a guaranteed deal, him scoring 40 points in a ball game in the NBA, and then never playing the guy? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I don't know what happened. I guess they must figure he doesn't fit with the way they see the team playing down the road, the style of play. That's the only reason I can come up with. But now Kenny Lofton Jr. is playing in the G League squad for the Philadelphia 76ers, and I would love to see the Sixers bring him up in Embiid's absence and just see what he can bring you. I mean, if there's any time to bring up a guy for the Sixers who could show you something on the offensive end, it's right now, where Embiid is totally being sorely missed. So that's a little bit on the Charlotte Hornets and the Memphis Grizzlies, two teams that you really wouldn't think we'd be talking about, but with some action from the Grizzlies and with the trade deadline for the Hornets and playing Micic, now suddenly, it's a little bit of fun to think about what could happen in Charlotte and in Memphis. Then you have the Orlando Magic beating the Chicago Bulls 114-108. You have the Pacers exacting their revenge on the New York Knicks. The Knicks had won a couple of games against the Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton, and now it's the Pacers' turn. The Pacers have Halliburton back, and the Knicks are missing Hartenstein, they're missing OG, they're missing Julius Randle, and the Pacers able to exact their revenge. There's one particular play in this game that everybody is talking about, and that's the Tyrese Halliburton off the backboard, but he didn't go off the backboard to himself for the dunk like we saw Donovan Mitchell do this season, and we've famously seen Tracy McGrady do. And, Shaquille O'Neal famously did that back in the day when you were allowed to do that off foul shots, pass the ball to yourself off the backboard. But now Tyrese Halliburton comes in, and he's even more creative. He was standing all the way in three-point territory. He goes and he throws the ball off the backboard, runs in at about the foul line area, catches it, and sends it out to the right corner wing for a three-pointer to Pascal Siakam. And if you watch the play, they had this great angle where you're watching it from behind, like a trailer, as if you were trailing the play. So you're watching it from the half court view, as if you were standing at midcourt. And Miles Turner is standing basically at the top of the key, at the top of the by the 3-point line, and he has his hands up because he's open for a three as well. And when the ball goes out to Siakam, he kind of is in the process of putting his hands down as he realizes he's not getting the ball in this play. But then he, just in amazement, his hands kind of go up above his head like he can't believe what he's seeing. So Tyrese Halliburton is catching his own teammates by absolute surprise. They can't even believe the kind of stuff that he's doing out there on the court. And this guy is taking over the NBA in a really unbelievable way. It's super exciting in Indiana. In Indiana, from what I'm hearing, they have some winners, some absolute winners down in the G League as well. They're really developing players the right way. And you got to be really excited if you're a Pacer fan. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the Raptors last night as well, 119-95, staying super red hot. They're now 2 games up on the Milwaukee Bucks as the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. You have the Atlanta Hawks winning another ball game against the Houston Rockets, who can't seem to get a victory right now. Hawks, no moves going into the trade deadline. Nice and easy, calm, able to keep their same squad and get a couple of victories. Warriors beating the Suns, as we talked about, with Steph Curry, the greatest show on basketball, hitting the 3 with less than a second to go. Draymond Green playing well. And then the Pelicans get a victory over the Trailblazers. And I want to look at this a little bit. The Trailblazers scored 84 points. They only scored 84 points in this game 24 of those points came from Jeremy Grant. 18 points came from DeAndre Ayton, who played 37 minutes, only managed to put up 18 points. And the rest of this, just read the players that the Trailblazers ran out there. They played Jabari Walker, Matisse Thybulle, Ashton Hagans played 23 minutes. Delano Banton played 25 minutes. Chris Murray played 22 minutes. Tumani Kamara played 20 minutes. Ebao Badji played 11 minutes. And Justin Minaya played a couple of minutes. So the roster that the Trailblazers are running out there is so embarrassing. This is a real non-NBA team at this point. I don't know where Malcolm Brogdon is. I don't know where Shaedon Sharpe is. I don't know what happened to Scoot Henderson, who hasn't even been good whatsoever. This is such an embarrassment for the Trailblazers. You have Jeremy Grant unable to do anything with this clownish cast of characters, and you have DeAndre Ayton, and there's just more and more stories coming out about DeAndre Ayton, about how he complains and how he doesn't bring it, and the Iceman, cold as ice in terms of not being able to play well, not being able to really show anything on the NBA level. DeAndre Ayton, a real true embarrassment, one of the laughing stocks of the NBA, one of the absolute laughing stocks of the NBA as he gets picked in the draft ahead of Luka Doncic, one of the real embarrassing draft picks of all time. We have a game going on right now. We have the Boston Celtics in Miami beating the Heat right now. It's 59-50 at halftime. We'll see what happens in the second half if the Miami Heat can make that a closer game. And then later today at 1 o'clock, you have the Kings playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Kings got a massive victory in their last one, and Oklahoma got absolutely blown out in their last one. So we'll see what happens in the Kings versus Thunder game. We also have something called the Super Bowl happening today. Yeah, that's also happening. Put that on the back burner. Keep an eye on the Super Bowl. And, we are NBAV. Follow us on social at NBAV and NB Avenue. And you can email the show at NBAVENUE. That's NBAvenue, NB Avenue at yahoo.com with your questions and comments. We're your source for casual conversation and great NBA takes. And come join us for a great time every time. And until next time, we are out.